Okay, so you want to own a food truck. Buy the truck, park it where the people are, sell the food, and drive home with the cash. Here's the first number that should stop you. A food truck runs a net profit margin of 7 to 15%. A sit down restaurant runs 1 to 3. So the truck is 3 to 5 times better on every dollar it takes. And roughly 60% of food trucks are gone within 3 years. By the end of this, you'll know how a truck actually makes money, why a better margin does not mean more money, and why a food truck is not really a food business at all. Start with what it costs to get on the road. The cheapest way in is to rent, $2,000 to $3,000 a month, and you're trading next week. Buy used, and you're looking at $30,000 to $70,000. Budget another $5,000 to $15,000 for repairs the last owner left you. A new build runs $75,000 to $175,000. Kitchen equipment on top of that is $10,000 to $50,000 depending on your menu. Insurance is $2,000 to $5,000 a year. All in, most people spend $100,000 to $150,000 to launch properly. The full range runs from $50,000 to over $250,000. But here's the cost nobody puts in the spreadsheet. Permits and licenses run anywhere from $1,500 to $28,000, and the number depends entirely on your city. A study by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation with the Institute for Justice and the National Food Truck Association looked at what that actually costs. In Boston, the annual regulatory bill for a food truck runs up to $38,000. In Portland, about $5,000. Same truck, same food, same cook. $33,000 of difference decided by a line on a map. And there is one more that catches almost everybody. In most jurisdictions, you cannot legally operate out of your truck alone. You have to be tied to a licensed commercial kitchen called a commissary, where you prep, store, fill your water, dump your waste, and usually park overnight. That runs $300 to $1,500 a month and up to $3,000 if it includes parking and storage. So read that back. You just bought a kitchen, and you still have to rent a kitchen and sleep your kitchen inside it every night. Now, the part that decides everything. Follow. One order. A customer walks up and spends $15. Food cost in this industry runs around 30%, so $4.50 of that $15 is gone before you hand the tray over. That is the meat, the tortilla, the packaging, and the napkin. Then everything else takes its turn. Propane, fuel to get there and back, the commissary rent, insurance, the permits, card processing on the tap, repairs on a vehicle you drive to work and then cook inside, and then the one people forget entirely. You usually pay for the right to park. Breweries, office parks, festivals, and private events either charge a flat daily fee or take a percentage of what you sell that day. The spot is not free. The spot is a supplier in labor, if you have any. In a business where the whole day happens in 2 hours, a second pair of hands is not a luxury. It is the difference between serving the queue and watching half of it walk away. What survives all of that is 7 to 15%, and only if you are the one doing the work. So on that $15 order, what you actually keep is somewhere between $1 and $2.25. That is the real unit of this business, not the ticket, the dollar and change underneath it. So the model is not price times customers. It is tickets per hour times the hours you are allowed to. You do not set any of them. And that is what makes this business different from every restaurant you have ever eaten in. Which brings us to the number that actually decides whether this works. Not the food, not the brand, not the wrap on the side, the serving window. A truck at full tilt turns out roughly one ticket every 60 to 90 seconds. That is not a marketing problem. It is a physical one, and it is set by the size of the hatch and the number of hands behind it. So a 2-hour lunch rush is 80 to 120 customers. That is your day. There is no table you can add. There is no second sitting. Here is what that looks like in a year. The average food truck brings in around $346,000 with a typical range of $250,000 to $500,000. The best trucks in New York and Los Angeles clear $1 million. Take that average and spread it across roughly 250 trading days, and you get about $1,380 a day. At a $15 ticket, that is about 92 customers. 92 people, that is the entire business. And the category is not the problem. Food trucks are about a $1.5 billion market, growing close to 10% a year since 2018. Demand is fine. The hatch is the constraint. And here is the reveal that catches people. That 7 to 15% margin is not a clever operating model. It is you. Owner-operated trucks run 7 to 15%. The moment you have employees, it drops to 6 to 9. Hiring one person can halve what you keep. A restaurant grows by adding tables and staff. A truck cannot add a window. So the only variable you control is how much of the labor you personally absorb, which means the healthy margin and the exhausted owner are the same fact, stated twice. Now, the two stories everybody in this industry knows. Los Angeles, 2008. A chef called Roy Choi puts Korean short rib in a taco and sells it out of one truck. Nobody knows where the truck is going to be. So he starts announcing it on Twitter, which at the time, nobody was doing for anything. Within months, Kogi is drawing hundreds of people to each stop and moving up to 400 pounds of meat a day across several locations. National Geographic later credited that one truck with kicking off an $800 million industry. In 2012, two cousins from Maine go on Shark Tank and ask for $55,000 for 5% of a lobster roll truck. Barbara Corcoran takes the deal. By 2023, Cousins Maine Lobster is doing roughly $39 million a year, with $585 million in lifetime sales. By early 2025, more than $1 billion in cumulative system-wide sales. Now look at what actually happened in both of those stories. Roy Choi went on to open restaurants and build a career. Cousins built a franchise system, and that billion is system-wide, spread across franchisees who bought their own trucks. The two most famous food truck successes in America both got rich by not being food truck businesses anymore. The truck was the audition. Here's where it gets uncomfortable because the ways you lose are mostly decided before you cook anything. And one honest note on that 60%. Food truck data is thin, and that figure leans partly on restaurant survival rates as a proxy. Treat it as a direction, not a decimal. Mistake 1, buying the truck before checking the city. If you are in a $38,000 regulatory market, you need an extra $33,000 of profit a year. Just to stand where a Portland truck stands, you can be permitted out of business without ever making a bad taco. Mistake 2. Buying new before you know the concept works. $175,000 of custom stainless steel built around a menu that nobody has yet paid for twice. And the risk almost nobody prices in is the calendar. You do not have a bad month in this business. You have a bad Tuesday 40 times a year, and every single one of them is gone for good. Rain does not reschedule. The window opens once, there is one more, and it is the one that ends people. Your restaurant is a vehicle. A transmission goes, an alternator goes, and you are not looking at a repair bill. You are looking at a closed business until it is fixed. A restaurant with a broken oven still opens its doors. A truck that will not start is simply not a business that day. Let's do the actual math, because this is where the dream and the spreadsheet stop agreeing. Say you buy used, $50,000 for the truck, $25,000 for equipment and build out, $25,000 for permits, insurance, a wrap, and working capital. $100,000 on the road. The optimistic case, you hit the industry average, $346,000 of revenue, and you run it yourself at 15%. That is about $51,900 a year. Payback on your $100,000 under 2 years, and that $51,900 is before you have paid yourself anything for the hours. Spread it across 6 days a week, and it stops reading like profit and starts reading like a wage. But look at what you actually bought. You are the cook, the server, the driver, the cleaner, the buyer, and the bookkeeper. 6 days a week in a metal box that hits 110 degrees in August. The realistic case, you land at $250,000, the bottom of the normal range, and you hire one person because you physically cannot do every service alone. Your margin falls into the employee band. Call it 7%. That is $17,500 for the year. Payback stretches out beyond 5. The difference between those two outcomes is one hire and $100,000 of revenue, about $34,000 a year. And that is the whole gap between a business and a very expensive way to be self-employed. Neither of those scenarios is a disaster. Both are ordinary. That is the point. Meanwhile, $100,000 sitting in a plain index fund at long-run average returns roughly doubles in a decade. No commissary rent, no propane, no 6 a.m. in February, scraping frost off a windscreen so you can go and stand in it. Step back and the shape of it is clear. A food truck is not a cheap restaurant. It is a restaurant with the payroll taken off the books. And you are what was taken off. The margin looks better because you are doing the jobs a restaurant pays 6 people to do. The ceiling is the width of a hatch. And the 2 people this industry holds up as proof it works. Both use the truck as a starting line, not a destination. So buy one if you want to cook and you want to own the thing you cook in. That is a real reason, and it is a good one. Just do not buy one because the margins look better than a restaurant. They look better because you are not counting yourself. And yeah, that is it for today. What do you want the next episode to be about? Comment down below.